Naoya Inoue's rise to global superstardom was not just about his blinding speed, his precise footwork, or the kind of power that could end a fight in a single breath. It was about moments that cemented him as a figure of awe and respect, a fighter who not only won championships but did so in a manner that left opponents broken, fans exhilarated, and the sport itself changed. Inoue's 2019 World Boxing Super Series journey is one of modern boxing's most compelling arcs, both for what it showed of him and what it demanded of his opponents. To truly understand what made those nights unforgettable, one must revisit the semi-final against Emmanuel Rodriguez and then the final against Nonito Donaire, two fights that told two very different stories of who Inoue was and who he would become. By the time Inoue stepped into the ring against Emmanuel Rodriguez in May 2019, his reputation already preceded him. Nicknamed the Monster, he had built a career on ruthlessly efficient demolitions, carrying the aura of inevitability with every punch he threw. The semi-final of the World Boxing Super Series was no ordinary contest. The stakes included the IBF bantamweight title, the right to advance to the tournament final, and, beneath it all, a very personal edge. In the heated days before the bout, Rodriguez's coach had crossed a line that went beyond the sporting arena. In an act seen by many as brazen disrespect, he had shoved Inoue's father, an act that was both insulting and deeply motivating for the Japanese champion. For Inoue, this was no longer a mere title defense or a chance to advance in the tournament. This was about pride, respect, and retribution. Rodriguez was not some sacrificial lamb tossed to the altar of hype. He entered the ring undefeated, a Puerto Rican champion with an impressive skill set that had allowed him to outbox many challengers. His record boasted sharp footwork, intelligent counterpunching, and defensive reflexes that made him notoriously difficult to hit clean. He was no reckless brawler. He was calculated, disciplined, and technically sound. Many analysts believed his style, built around patience and movement, might give Inoue trouble. If anyone had the tools to drag the Japanese phenom into deep waters, it was Rodriguez. He was not intimidated by reputations, and he carried himself into the ring with a calm determination that spoke volumes about his confidence. The opening round was exactly what purists of the sport hoped for. Rodriguez showcased his slickness, circling with poise, staying light on his feet, and slipping the initial bursts from Inoue. The exchanges resembled a chess match, with both fighters probing for weaknesses, feinting to draw reactions, and testing the timing of the other. Rodriguez scored with jabs, checked hooks, and quick counters, while Inoue remained patient, stalking and studying. For a fleeting moment, it seemed the Puerto Rican might live up to the narrative of being the toughest test of Inoue's career to that point. He was landing, he was moving, and he appeared unshaken by the storm that everyone knew was coming. But Inoue was a fighter who did not need 12 rounds to solve puzzles. Less than 30 seconds into the second round, the tide shifted with a violence that was almost shocking. Inoue closed the distance with predatory precision and detonated a short, brutal left hook on the inside. Rodriguez, caught flush, went crashing to the canvas. The crowd erupted, commentators shouted in disbelief, and the Puerto Rican's face betrayed what words could not. He had been touched by something altogether different. Rising unsteadily at the count of 8, Rodriguez tried to reset, but Inoue smelled blood and showed no mercy. Coming. The next attack targeted the body. Inoue, always versatile in his offense, ripped a thunderous shot under Rodriguez's guard. It landed with sickening accuracy, folding him over and sending him down again. His nose streamed blood, his legs betrayed his heart, and though he rose bravely, everyone watching knew the end was near. Rodriguez fought on with admirable courage, but Inoue was dismantling him piece by piece. Every punch carried bad intentions. Every step forward pushed Rodriguez closer to collapse. A final sequence, punctuated by another savage combination, left the referee with no choice but to stop the bout. In less than 2 rounds, the undefeated Puerto Rican champion had been broken down, humbled, and dispatched. That victory was not just about unifying titles or advancing to the World Boxing Super Series final. It was a statement of intent. Inoue had shown the boxing world that it did not matter how polished, undefeated, or confident an opponent appeared. If they stood in front of him, they would not stand for long. The sheer brutality of the win left fans and pundits stunned. Rodriguez, who had looked poised to make things competitive, had been reduced to rubble almost instantly. The aura of inevitability surrounding Inoue only grew stronger, and attention turned immediately to the looming final against Nonito Donaire. Nonito Donaire was no ordinary finalist. The Filipino Flash was a veteran of more than 40 professional bouts, a former multi-division world champion, and one of the most respected figures in the sport. He carried a reputation for devastating counterpunches, particularly his legendary left hook, and a career's worth of experience fighting elite opposition. Yet, at 36 years old, many believed his best days were behind him. Against the rising phenom 13 years his junior, Donaire was widely expected to provide little more than a final highlight reel moment before Inoue's coronation. Analysts and fans alike assumed the fight would end quickly, another display of overwhelming power from the Japanese superstar. But what transpired on that night was not routine, not predictable, and certainly not easy. It was one of the greatest wars the sport had seen in the modern era. The opening rounds suggested a familiar script. Inoue asserted control early, using his jab, feints, and speed to dictate the distance. Every punch landed with crisp precision, snapping back Donaire's head and forcing him to respect the younger fighter's power. Inoue moved with a predator's patience, cutting off angles and setting traps, while Donaire worked to find his rhythm. But unlike Rodriguez, Donaire was not overwhelmed by the moment. His experience and composure allowed him to absorb the early pressure, keeping his guard tight and looking for openings. Even in those first rounds, it was clear this was no ordinary opponent. Then came the second round, a moment that changed everything. Donaire, with perfect timing, unleashed a thunderous left hook that landed flush on Inoue's face. The impact fractured Inoue's right eye socket instantly, swelling it and drawing blood. For the first time in his professional career, Inoue looked human. The monster blinked, shook his head, and pressed forward, but the damage was undeniable. Donaire had not only hurt him physically but had also sent a message. This was not going to be easy. The fight had just become something much more than a showcase. It was a battle for survival. As the rounds wore on, Donaire's confidence grew. His counterpunching was sharp, his timing immaculate. He landed combinations that forced Inoue onto the defensive, moments that made the audience gasp at the possibility of an upset. For every burst of offense from Inoue, Donaire had an answer, slipping, firing back, and standing his ground. The fight had transformed into a firefight, two warriors trading at a level of intensity that left spectators awestruck. Every round carried drama, every exchange the potential to end it all. Inoue, wounded but unbroken, adapted. In the middle rounds, he made subtle but crucial adjustments, returning to basics, tightening his defense, and varying his attack. He pressed forward with relentless pressure, wearing down the older man. By the fifth round, the momentum began to shift back in his favor. A stinging left hook and a massive right hand staggered Donaire, forcing him into retreat. But just when it seemed Inoue might finish the job, the Filipino veteran showed why he was revered. His heart and resilience carried him through, landing counters that reminded everyone of his dangerous power. The eighth round was a spectacle of grit. Blood trickled from Inoue's injured eye, his face swollen, but he pressed forward undeterred. Donaire, battered but unyielding, met him head-on. They exchanged like titans, each punch a test of will, each round a display of extraordinary courage. By the 10th, Inoue seemed to fight with a personal vendetta, throwing every punch with violent intention, while Donaire, older and slower, refused to fold. The ring became a crucible of endurance, a place where neither man was willing to concede. The defining moment came in the 11th round. Inoue landed a perfectly timed left hook to the liver, a shot so precise and devastating it could have ended most fighters' nights. Donaire crumpled in agony, the pain evident as he writhed on the canvas. Yet, in a scene that epitomized his legendary toughness, he rose before the count was complete. Though clearly hurt, he fought on, throwing counters that even forced Inoue to hesitate. The exchange was surreal, a testament to the warrior spirit of both men. The 12th round was a search for miracles. Donaire, bloodied and exhausted, swung desperately, hoping for a last-minute knockout. Inoue, nearly blind in one eye, pressed forward with controlled aggression, determined to secure victory. When the final bell rang, the embrace between the two men spoke louder than any words. Inoue had won the fight and the tournament, but Donaire had won something equally important: the respect and admiration of fans around the world. Together, they had given boxing a generational classic, a 12-round war that would be remembered as one of the greatest in modern history. For Inoue, the fight cemented his legacy not only as a fearsome knockout artist but also as a fighter who could endure, adapt, and triumph even under immense adversity. He had bled, he had been hurt, but he had found a way to win. For Donaire, though defeated, the performance reignited his career and reminded the world why he was still revered as one of the sport's finest. It was not just a fight but a clash of eras, a passing of the torch executed in blood and brilliance. Their paths would cross again, and anticipation for the rematch was immense. Fans wondered whether they would witness another grueling war or if Inoue, now more seasoned, would dominate. When the two met again, this time with the WBA, IBF, and WBC bantamweight titles on the line, the outcome was emphatically different. From the opening bell, Inoue was clinical, his jab snapping Donaire's head back with authority. The older man pressed forward as always, but he was chasing shadows. Inoue moved with ruthless precision, dictating the pace, landing at will, and showing a command that left no room for doubt. A blistering right hand in the first round dropped Donaire, and though he bravely beat the count, the writing was already on the wall. In the second, Inoue closed the show with savage efficiency. A crushing left hook wobbled Donaire, followed by a furious flurry that left him defenseless. A final right hand finished the job, flooring him for good. The referee stopped it, and in just 2 rounds, Inoue had erased the memory of their first war. This time, it was not about survival or tests of heart. It was about coronation. The monster had arrived at the summit, undisputed, undeniable, and unforgettable.